For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sashni Madli. Joining me today is Brett Lads, here to discuss his book, The Mandela Appreciation Club, A Chef's Story. So you had a tense childhood and you were also bullied. Just speak to us a bit about where you grew up and how you grew up.
Well, yeah, it was very difficult. My father worked for Anglo-American at that stage, and he was moving from mine to mine. And his job as a mine manager was troubleshooting. So he had to go in there, find the problems, fix it, get the mine working again. Now, obviously, those days, the mines were very Afrikaans, and people didn't like bosses, if I can put that in general. And we'd move to the mine. Obviously, my dad, first thing he would do is start firing the people he felt wasn't good enough. And being English on top of that didn't help. The only problem was where we stayed on collieries. We were always about an hour or 2 hours out of towns and it. So I had to get onto the buses that all the kids caught. And being younger and smaller, it was quite challenging, yes.
And just talk to us a bit about your father. He was extremely strict, yet on the mines he was fair and compassionate, especially towards the black workers.
Yes.
How did this contrast affect you?
Well, at that stage, my dad was always fair. I need to be very, very honest with you. But obviously he also had his work pressures and that from head offices and that to cut down on staff, sort people out, cut down on expenses and that. So I believed he was always fair. I think when he got home at night and everything else, he couldn't handle the pressures. And I mean, it's not as if he could go play around a golf or play tennis or go to a bar to drink because there was nothing in the area. So I think a lot of what he did wasn't intentional, but it's what happened. And
how did you develop your interest in food and cooking? And tell us about how it was training under Christian Michel.
Well, the cooking part came was on Saturdays, my dad would go buy a piece of meat or whatever, sit around the kitchen table and he would grill this meat. And I would go and stand there. And eventually it was my job to salt and pepper it, and then I could. So it almost came part that food was the only way I could actually communicate with my father. So I started feeling that food had energy and power. From there, when I started working in the restaurant, I had a flair for food because I was very blessed and fortunate to eat in great restaurants and hotels and everything else. And when I met Christian, I knew exactly what he was looking for. And he was slow, he was kind, he was loving, he was everything my father wasn't, except honest, and I mean that had in common. But he saw me for who I was. And again, through us cooking together and training under him, food was our medium of energy or source or love, if I can put it that way.
And talk to us about how you formally met Nelson Mandela. You blurted out something to him.
Sure, no. When I met the president, I think I was pure star and panic struck. You know what I'm trying to say to you? I've just been through inauguration. I've been through a time whereby the country was in chaos. Everyone was expecting civil war. I just looked at the president and I said, why haven't you killed us? And I promise you it's not what I was thinking, but I think it was the dumbest thing I could have ever said in my life.
Yeah. And what was his response to you?
He laughed. he actually laughed at me. And I think he could see the fear in my eyes. And he sat and spoke to me and he calmed me down. And here's this great man making me feel at ease. That's when I knew exactly what I was blessed to have worked for.
Yeah. And what were some of his favorite foods?
Well, people ask, he didn't have a specific dish, if I can put it that way. He loved healthy food, South African food, and I always say food with a story, in a sense that when 94 came, all the doctors and specialists and acupuncturists around the world came to the president to fix up his health, because he had a hard life in that. And I was taught how to feed him, what to feed him, what he can and can't eat, what he should and shouldn't eat, because I don't think anyone can tell the president what he can and cannot eat, you know what I mean? Yeah, but the president had a fantastic palate. He loved food that was healthy. If I would come to him and say, you know, President, today I'm serving you, for argument's sake, the sole, it was come fresh from Cape Town. The vegetables the farmer dropped off as a present to you. The fruit is coming from the Ceres Valley. He enjoyed that. He loved to eat. The love of our country.
Yeah. And talk to us about an incident where a prominent businessman tried to give Mandela money. How did he react?
Sure. Yeah, no. He honestly, I think the president honestly believed that this businessman was sincere, that he wanted to give it to the president for the right reasons. And after he got upset because the president wouldn't take the money personally, that he actually gave it to a charity. The president, you could see the disappointment in his face. I could actually say I think he was hurt with that.
Yeah, sure. And you had the opportunity to meet many heads of state and celebrities. Which stood out for you?
I always say Prince Charles, because when you read the newspapers and you read magazines, everyone thought he was a moron. Sorry for saying it. And you know, you got the state visit coming, you normally do research and you look and you want to see if you can be involved with the people and things like that. And when he came, I was like, oh, you know, kind of thing. And it was incredible. The first time I met him was just after the high tea in the gardens, and he walked up and he said to me, my mom sends her thanks to you and says hi. I was like, wow, you know, the Queen. I mean, I was spoken about in Buckingham, you know. And yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. Quincy Jones was a legend. He was just a walking jukebox. He would sing and click and thank everybody. Also, beautiful people.
And he sang about your food.
Yeah, he actually serenaded my food. I was so embarrassed, I didn't know what to do. But it was beautiful, but that's who he was. And if there was people at the table that weren't happy or grumpy, he would pick up their souls.
Yeah. And everybody has their own version of the type of person that Madiba was. What is your version?
He was out of the world. He was a man in the street who was humble, but yet great. I know it sounds stupid, eh? He saw himself as just a normal person, but yet he was blessed with this great aura of love and caring. He was incredible. I tell a lot of people, I think a lot of South Africans forgot who he was. He was the man who would walk down the street and people just hug and love each other because he was there. They wouldn't know why they were doing it. That's how I saw the president.
And you had reservations about hosting former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe, but you were pleasantly surprised.
Yes, you know what, again, it's the media. You know, you read the media and everything else like that, and especially what happened in the country now. Obviously, I'm white and I'm working for the ANC, which is majority black, and you're standing at the door welcoming the president from Zimbabwe who's just got rid of all the white people. You can't be very optimistic. But you know, he arrived, he was pleasant, he was stunning, he was charming, he had the most incredible stories to tell. It was nothing that the media depicted. As I've always told people, I'm not political, but he actually came back 2 or 3 times after that and really enjoyed his company. It was fantastic.
And lastly, what prompted you to write this book? I understand it was an emotional experience.
Yes. I think the biggest reason was to speak about the unsung heroes. I tell people there's a lady by the name of Mary, and that she came along, and I've been talking about Mary, and I talk about Mary in my book, and last week I was doing filming at the Apartheid Museum, and here I'm standing, I'm getting interviewed, and we're having a great time, and on the screen in front of me is a screen of running of the president from basically when he took office to when he left office, and he has all these clips of all his experiences, and you know, standing next to him all the time, it's Mary. And it's like I turned around to everyone, I said, there's Mary, you know, because no one believes me Mary exists. There she is, she's on TV, standing next to the president. So it's people like that. There's people, the bodyguards that were there, then obviously they came from the MK days, and they weren't the bodyguards that were going to put suits on it, but they kept him alive. I needed to speak about those people that had a huge role to play. Even though they weren't there at the end, they were definitely there in the beginning.
That was Brett Latz discussing his book, The Mandela Appreciation Club, A Chef's Story.